In a silent courtroom, jurors' eyes were focused on the chief judge, Clarice Beaufort, a black woman in her 40s, recently appointed to head the appeals court. She was a figure of respect, a model of dignity and professionalism. Every decision she made seemed transcended by her integrity, but today she was going to be faced with a test that would call everything into question. The ongoing trial was a complex case, involving accusations of corruption and manipulation at the highest levels of government. The defendant, an influential businessman named Victor Leclerc, was accused of using his power to manipulate court decisions and government contracts. The evidence was sketchy, but the prosecution had a good chance of success. Clarice, true to her reputation, prepared to conduct a rigorous and impartial investigation. However, what happened that day would change his view of the justice system. During the presentation of witnesses, a man entered the courtroom. He was well-dressed, elegant, and wore an impeccable suit. At first glance, he appeared to be a seasoned lawyer, a man of the system. But something in his eyes, something in his penetrating gaze, made a wave of familiarity rise within Clarice. She froze. This face, these features, she had seen them in her childhood. She didn't need a second look to recognize this man. It was Gabriel, her childhood friend. They had grown up together in a modest neighborhood, sharing the laughter and tears of a youth marked by social and economic difficulties. They were close, almost like brother and sister. But fate separated them when Gabriel moved to another city to continue his studies. She never heard from him again. And now here he stood, in this room, like a defense attorney in the most high-profile case of the moment. Clarice tried to remain calm, but the emotion overwhelmed her. She had difficulty concentrating on the lawyer's arguments, her mind haunted by childhood memories. What was he doing here? Why was this man, whom she had known as a young idealist, now on the other side of the bar? Had he changed, or was it the system that had transformed him? During the first interrogation, Gabriel spoke with a confidence that Clarice would never have imagined. His words, at first measured, became more and more passionate as he defended his client, Victor Leclerc, a powerful and influential man accused of corruption. He spoke of his innocence with such fervor, it was as if he believed it deeply. He put forward arguments that seemed rational, flaws in the prosecution's case, details that he knew how to manipulate with expertise. But for Clarice, each word from Gabriel hit her mind like a punch, heavy, impactful, impossible to ignore. It was Gabriel, his childhood friend, the one who had shared his journey from the cobbled streets of their neighborhood to the corridors of justice. She had seen him grow, dream, and rise, just as she had done, with the idea of changing the world. But there, in this courtroom, he stood on the other side, in the position of one who defended not the truth, but a rotten system that she herself had sworn to fight. Despite the overwhelming evidence, Gabriel was convinced of his client's innocence, or at least he did everything to make him believe it. He was brilliant, undeniably. But the more he spoke, the more Clarice felt a wave of confusion and pain wash over her. Every word, every justification, seemed like a betrayal of their own ideals, of their shared dreams. There she found herself in her position as judge, torn between the friendship she had shared with this man and the loyalty she owed to justice. His heart was beating hard in his chest, a mixture of anger and sadness. How could a man, whom she had known as a young idealist, allow himself to be swallowed up by this world of compromise and corruption? She couldn't understand. Gabriel was not the same man. Her face, marked by time and experience, no longer expressed the innocence of the young man she had known. Instead, he carried the coldness of a seasoned lawyer, confident and relentless. But somewhere, deep in her eyes, Clarice saw a glimmer of doubt, almost imperceptible, like a reflection of her broken soul. The trial continued, but each moment spent in this room seemed to last an eternity to Clarice. She couldn't concentrate anymore. Gabriel's words played on a loop in his mind, like a haunting melody. They were simple childhood memories, youthful promises she had made in innocence. But were these promises still valid today, in the face of this raw and relentless reality? Why had Gabriel become what he was? Memories flooded in, scenes from a shared past, laughter, dreams, and this almost fraternal complicity. They had supported each other for years, sharing common aspirations, hoping to one day see a more just world. And yet, Gabriel was there, on this platform, defending the indefensible. Clarisse found herself in an emotional whirlwind, where each question that asked herself seemed to take her a little further away from the person she had known. How could she reconcile the friendship she felt for him with her duty to do justice? Every fiber of her being told her to help him, to save him, but the reality hit her hard. She was a judge. She was there to apply the law, to judge without emotion, without compromise. And yet his heart was divided. It was then that a break was announced. Clarisse stood up slowly, her legs heavy with fatigue and uncertainty. She headed towards her office, hoping for a moment of respite, a moment to regain her composure. But when she opened the door to her office, she found a familiar figure.
Gabriel.
There he was, in the doorway, his face marked by an expression of deep pain. He closed the door quietly behind him, looking serious. He didn't need to speak for Clarisse to understand. It wasn't a coincidence. He had something to tell her. "Clarisse, we need to talk," he said, his voice trembling, filled with palpable anguish. She looked at him for a long time, unsettled. It had been years since they had seen each other. And yet here, in this cramped office, she found herself face to face with him, a man she knew better than anyone, but who now seemed as foreign as a stranger. "Why are you here?" she finally asked, her voice shaking with anger and confusion. She had not expected such an encounter. She didn't even know where to start. How could he be who he had become? Gabriel took a deep breath, as if to give himself courage. His hands were shaking slightly, despite the appearance of control he was trying to project. "This trial. It's more complicated than you think." Clarisse stared at him, impatient, but also worried. His heart was beating harder. What he said now would determine much more than the outcome of the trial. He had something important to reveal to her.
"I'm here to protect someone, Clarisse."
"Someone you know very well." He paused, as if weighing each word, each truth he was going to reveal. Then the words fell, heavy, impactful. "Me." The silence that followed seemed to last forever. Clarisse couldn't believe what he had just said.
Gabriel.
The one she had known, the one who had supported her in the most difficult moments of her life, was one of the people responsible for what she was fighting today. She was in shock, her body frozen, as if time had stood still. "What do you mean?" she finally whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. Gabriel looked down, his hands resting on his knees, trembling.
I'm the one who organized the corruption, Clarisse."
"I manipulated the evidence to protect Leclerc, and I got paid for it." He turned away, as if each word was an additional pain to bear. "All this, everything you see here is my fault."
The words hit Clarisse like a merble.
Gabriel, the man she had known, the man she had loved like a brother, had become the architect of a corrupt system, a system she had sworn to dismantle.
She felt pure, uncontrollable anger rising within her. How cold.
How could he have betrayed not only her, but also all their dreams of a better world? Gabriel, his eyes full of tears, looked at her, perhaps waiting for a reaction, a sign of understanding. But what shocked her even more was what he said next. He wasn't just asking her to help him out of this situation. No, he was asking for her forgiveness.
Clarisse, he had no choice.
"I was pushed into this game by forces bigger than me. I am trapped in this system and I no longer see a way out." His heart broke into 1,000 pieces. She knew he was right. He was trapped, just as she had once been. But she couldn't turn a blind eye to the truth. She couldn't ignore justice, even for him. Clarisse stood up slowly, her decision made. The pain was strong, but his resolve was even stronger. "I'm going to do what's right, Gabriel. Even if it means losing you." Gabriel nodded slowly, a tear rolling down his cheek. "I knew you would do this." The next day, during the trial, Clarisse took the stand. She announced that she would withdraw from the case due to her personal connection to one of the lawyers, which could compromise her impartiality. The journalists went wild, the affair made the headlines, but that was nothing compared to what was to come. To everyone's surprise, Clarice used her authority to order a thorough investigation into Gabriel's involvement in the manipulation of evidence. The truth came out, and Gabriel was arrested for his crimes. The trial continued without him, but the shock of this revelation shook the foundations of justice. The whole world was stunned. The judge, the one who had always embodied honesty, had discovered that her childhood friend had become one of the architects of the corruption she hated. And yet, she had made the most difficult decision of her life: to do her duty, whatever the cost. The scandal had shaken the legal order, but Clarice, now alone, could finally breathe. She had chosen justice. And it shocked the world.